Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2, and we're gonna see how far this goes. And yeah, I already read that. Before falling asleep, Layla comes to knock on my door in order to bring me back my clothes. I asked her if she came up with any ideas, but she said the only thing that came to her mind was that we could try to crush the troll's head after we behead him, in the hopes that his head will no longer regenerate after it's been cut off his body. The next day, our recreation period was scheduled towards noon. As I stepped out of my cell to meet the others, I noticed, to my surprise, that everyone was gathered in the middle of the room, sitting on the floor, except for Wilhelm, who was standing up shuffling a deck of cards. You're late, Wilhelm says. Have a seat. We were almost about to start without you. What's going on here? I ask. You're wondering, says Wilhelm, why we're all suddenly on friendly terms after we've been mostly ignoring each other this past few days. The answer is simple. It's because the owner of the arena just paid us a visit. The owner? I asked him, surprised. Yes, Wilhelm says. He was told by the guards in this place that we really haven't been using these recreation periods to get to know each other. He therefore decided to come here personally in order to graciously inform us that if we aren't planning to act as a team, he will be sending us one by one to our deaths instead of giving us a chance to work together. He also let us know that today's recreation period is the last time when we can prove that we are able to cooperate with each other. So that's why we're all playing cards then, I say. Well, we had to start somewhere, Wilhelm says, and I just happen to have a deck of cards with me. So I said, why not? Well, I lost my place. Okay, fair enough, I say. So what exactly are we playing? We're playing a game of shut your mouth and pick up the damn cards. One of the two thugs tells me it's a menacing tone. In a menacing tone. Why are your lips moving? Ooh, they didn't answer my question. I've never heard of this game. Can you? Oh, okay. I've never heard of this game before. Can you teach me the rules? Are you trying to be funny? The thug asked me as he slowly takes out his dagger, because I don't think you want to know what I usually do to people who try to be funny with me. Now, Wilhelm says as he puts a hand on the thug's shoulder. We're all supposed to act as a team here, remember? Get your filthy hand off me, you low-born scum, the thug tells Wilhelm. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed, but for a second there, I'm pretty sure that I could see Wilhelm's cheerful expression turn to one of pure bloodlust as he heard the thug's words. I didn't get to see any more of his reaction because Bruce suddenly began to laugh out loud, causing all of us to turn his eyes on him instead. Did you just call him a low-born scum? Bruce says. And what are you supposed to be? The long-lost Prince of Ulmnar? No, says the mage that got locked up here yesterday. That makes him a disinherited fool. Take a good look at that filthy rag he's wearing as a scarf. It bears the mark of the Tilleris family. The Tilleris family, Bruce says. Ha! So I guess that makes him a highborn scum then. My apologies. He laughs again. Can we please get back to our game of cards? Wilhelm asks. The guards are still listening. Nobody cares about your game of cards, Wilbert. Bruce says. The owner said we have to talk, so we're talking. He didn't say anything about playing cards. Go do it by yourself if you like playing cards so much. My name is Wilhelm, not Wilbert, Wilhelm says, in a calm but menacing tone. Interesting. As Wilhelm stops talking, a blue writing appears in the middle of us, with large characters, so we can all see it clearly. Please excuse me, the text says, but I would like to begin discussing our strategy for tomorrow. Now, if you all don't mind. We all turn towards Leela, who is staring at us with an upset look on her face. But, of course, Bruce says. Of course, of course. But maybe we should start by doing that. I could not agree more, Wilhelm says. And just what are we supposed to talk about exactly? The mage says. We still haven't been given any information in regards to tomorrow's events. The only thing we know so far is that we're likely to be battling mythical creatures of some kind in one of the rounds. Layla gives me a look. I think she's trying to tell me that this would be the best moment for me to let everybody know that we found out in the caverns. Then again, I suppose it's still not too late to change my mind either. Yeah, I might as well tell him. Why not? Actually, there's some information that I would like to share with you, I say, but you better brace yourselves, because this is going to get long. I then start telling everyone about our trip to the underground caverns, and what we discovered there. I omitted to tell them how exactly we reached the tunnels, and I did not tell them about our encounter with Flower and Illuna either, but I tried to describe the rest of our adventure to them in as much detail as possible, while simultaneously avoiding to tell them any information that might lead them to know that we are Lesathai, and that we are using stat devices. After I got done with the story, I also gave them a quick summary of what I know about each creature that we've met, including their behaviors and their weaknesses. I also told them about my theory about the troll's unusual regeneration ability. This is all very useful information, Wilhelm says. I happened to overhear the guards last night saying that we'd been fighting a troll named Velgos in the second round, but I would never have imagined him to be so powerful. What I would like to add to this is that I've also heard them talk about manticores, which I don't believe you've met in the underground caverns. If your notebook has as much information in it as you claimed, maybe you should do some research about them as well. I actually did some research about them, I say. I forgot to mention it before, but I also managed to overhear the guards talking about some of the monsters we might have to fight in the arena. In that discussion, they mentioned manticores and giant scorpions. I'll give you a briefing on them later. So, about that trapdoor when you triggered it accidentally, Bruce says, did you try to see if you could activate it again? I've tried a few times after that, Leela writes, but I didn't get it to work. Any chance we could have a look inside your room? Bruce says. Maybe one of us can figure it out. No, Leela writes. I'm not letting either of you inside my room. Except for the still water, the mage says. Except for the still water, Leela writes simply. So our greatest problem remains the troll then, Wilhelm says. I don't know what to say about that aura theory, but I'm not really one to talk because I've never studied magic. But it seems a little bit far-fetched to me. I like Leela's idea about crushing the head better, Bruce says. I doubt he'll be able to regenerate it once it's been cut off. No, you never know. Either way, Wilhelm says, what I think we can all agree on is that there is no way we could face these enemies alone. I know that we can't really stand each other, but we're going to have to call a truce until at least the arena's events. At least until after the arena's events. Our survival depends on it. For once, everyone agreed with Wilhelm, even if some did so more begrudgingly than the others. And we decided to spend the rest of the recreation period discussing various strategies that could work against the monsters that we know about, but also against other monsters that I've read about in my notes. We even agreed to have a second meeting later, after we'd spent some time alone in our rooms, mulling over the information that we had at our disposal. By the end of the day, we did manage to come up with better plans against the troll than our original ones. So all we could do was hope that at least one of them would work out all right. After going back to my room in the evening and laying down on my bed, my last thoughts before going to sleep went to the vision that I had about Wilhelm stabbing me in the back during the arena event. It's going to be fine. I already know what he's up to. As long as I never take my eyes off him, he won't be able to surprise me. I decide to think no further about this and go to sleep. The next day, I got woken up in the morning by one of the guards telling me to pack my bags because we're leaving in 20 minutes. I put all my stuff in my backpack, and then I walked out the door into the recreation room, where other members of my division were slowly starting to gather up. As soon as we're all set to go, we begin to leave our division's arena one by one, and we stop outside the door, where we are greeted by an employee of the arena who collects all of our keys and tells us to follow him. As we all walk through the dimly lit tunnels, members of other divisions are slowly beginning to walk out of their divisions as well, and follow their guides through the corridors. When we finally reach the upper levels, we are told to line up in an orderly fashion, so that the guards who were sent to escort us to the arena will have an easier time keeping an eye on us. I didn't get to see any of my friends as we advanced toward the arena, but I did see a pretty big crowd of people making its way into the arena to show in a very long line at the ticket booth. Ooh. The guards lead us through the Gladiator entrance of the arena, and they show us to our locker rooms, where we get to store our belongings for the duration of the show, assuming you'll all be alive after. After we're done putting our backpacks in the lockers, the guards tell us that we're allowed to roam freely throughout the arena designated for the gladiators until the event begins, but that we will need to gather up in the waiting area of our division in the sound of the horn. I figured that this would be the best moment to arrange a meeting between Layla and Kate. So I told Layla about my idea and asked her to follow me. She seemed a bit hesitant at first, but in the end she decided to come with me. The arena we were given access to was right below the spectator seats, circling the area where the fighting was about to take place. The fighting area reserved for gladiators looks much larger than those from the arenas that I read about in history books. The amphitheater surrounding the area seems big enough to host 30,000 spectators, if not more, and yet it does not seem that the seats are in any danger of not being filled. Even at this early hour in the morning, there are thousands of spectators pouring through all the entrances, and then making their way through the rising tier of seats, eager to reach their reserved spot and to watch the event of the century. It seems that the 3 days were more than enough to spread the word throughout the city about today's event. We make our way through the lower level of the Colosseum, while I look around, scanning the groups of gladiators to see if I can spot anyone I know. Half an hour later, we are still nowhere close to finding any trace of them. I tried to reach them through Darren's transceiver as well, but I've had no luck. There must be too many people trying to use transceivers in the area to be able to lock on the correct signals. Where could they all be? The horn that announces the start of the events could be sounding any minute now. Layla? I hear Kate's voice behind me. Layla, is that really you? Layla turns around at the sound of Kate's voice, but when she sees her face, she hesitates to write anything for a few moments. Kate, Layla starts to write, but she gets interrupted by Kate rushing towards her and hugging her as tightly as she can. Layla, Kate says, by the gods, I thought you were dead. They told us you died from experiments. Oh gods, Layla, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have believed them. I should have gone looking for you like I did all the others. You don't need to apologize, Layla writes, but she stops her text when she realizes Kate is currently keeping her eyes closed in an attempt to keep the tears from flowing out. I'm sorry, Kate says. I shouldn't have abandoned you like this. Please forgive me. I was so focused on Diane that The rest of Kate's words gets drowned out by the sound of a very loud horn. It seems that the arena event is about to start. Kate, we need to go, Darren says. I only noticed that Darren and Hadrik were also there, standing behind Kate. They must have all met earlier and came looking for me together. I know, Kate says, as she wipes her tears with her sleeve. Please keep her safe, Kate tells me, simply as she walks past me, heading towards her division side of the arena. I will tell her. Kate, wait, Leela writes, with her mouth open as if she'd forgotten that she can't talk. But Kate doesn't get to see the blue writing, and she keeps walking away from us. Call for Kate, why not? Hey, Kate, I shout Layla to make sure she hears me. Kate stops in her tracks and turns around, confused. Seeing that Layla doesn't do anything, I give her a nudge with my elbow. She finally understands what I was doing, and she quickly makes a message out of blue text, with very large letters, so Kate can see them from a distance. Kate, I'm sorry too, the text says. I'm sorry for having thought that you would never want to see me again because I was left aside. So now that we're both sorry, let's win the arena and get out of here alive so we can continue being sorry together. At first, Kate had a bit of a shock when she saw the writing, but then she realizes who it's coming from and she manages to smile. It's a promise, she shouts at Layla, and then she turns around to hurry back to her division. Knock 'em dead, Barry, Hadrick says, with his usual grin, as he also heads towards his own designated area. Or better yet, don't get killed, Darren tells me. We only need to survive the arena, not win it. I'll see you again at the end of the event. Remember, no need to do anything crazy, just stay alive, got it? Got it, I say. Once Darren is also gone, Layla and I decide to head towards our division as well. So, I say, as the two of us walk side by side. Now are you glad that you decided to follow me and meet Kate after all, I say? Layla smiles faintly. Yes, she writes. Yes, I'm glad. Thank you. Nope. We make our way to our division area where all of our other teammates are already gathered. We then take our places next to the iron gratings blocking our access to the fighting area in order to have a better view of what's happening in the arena, apparently. There are still some more people who are making their way towards their seats, but most of the spectators seem to have found their places. They are now restlessly waiting for the show to begin. I take a look to see if I can spot Flower or Rose, but the seats are too far away from me to be able to make any of the details. The announcer is now verifying his magical voice magnifier in preparation for the event. He is situated on an elevated platform above the spectator seats. As we all wait for the events to begin, I suddenly hear a familiar beeping noise coming from my pocket. At the same time, a similar beeping noise comes from the direction of the Layla as well. Finally, I've been waiting for this for a while. Oh boy! Invest points later by pressing top of the screen. No. Oh, man. Oh. I haven't done this in a while. Toughness? I never did any late combat technique. Oh, I don't really know what to put. Um, take a beating, toughness, strength, combat technique. Uh, let's try that. Yeah, hopefully that goes good. Probably not though. Excuse me. Once I'm done with my stat device, I put it in my back pocket, and I see that Layla is just about done with hers as well. Knowing her, she must have placed all of her points in toughness. I would ask her directly, but I wouldn't want to give away to the others the fact that we are Lesathai. Found a way to send messages in private, have you? Bruce asked us, after seeing us both use the same type of devices at the same time. Well, I hope you've said what you needed, because the show is about to start. Shortly after Bruce is done talking, we hear the sound of a second horn, now signaling the actual beginning of the event. The few spectators who came in late are now hurrying as fast as they can towards their seats, as the announcer is doing a few tests to make sure that his voice magnifier is working properly. Soon, the constant murmur that can be heard throughout the arena slowly dies out, and the announcer takes a deep breath, preparing to officially announce the beginning of the arena event. Welcome, the announcer says. Welcome to all. I don't think that there is any reason for me to make a lengthy introduction this time around, for you all know why you're here. You came here because you were promised the event of a century, and we plan to deliver on that promise. Now, if it's alright with everyone, I would like to begin by announcing the rules. The announcer waits for a few moments in order to make sure that there are no objections, and then he continues to read from his notepad. By the request of the arena's owner himself, Mr. Venard, the announcer says, today's event will follow the traditional rules which had been used by his father before him and by the Lesathai of old, before the still winter. As most of you may already know, this also means that if the gladiator breaks one of the rules, they will not be disqualified from participating any further, but they will become an undesirable. By becoming an undesirable, the gladiator will be forced to participate in an additional round after the official event ends, where they will need to fight all of the other remaining gladiators at once in one final battle. Any gladiator who manages to give the finishing blow to an undesirable will get rewarded either by his freedom or with a large sum of money, depending on their status in the arena. Other gladiators can of course refuse to participate in this final round, and the undesirables can also choose to no longer participate in the regular rounds once they have been pegged as rule breakers. Ooh my. The announcer coughs loudly, and he flips the page of his notepad. Of course, the announcer continues. This does not mean that gladiators will now be exempt from following the general rules of the arena. If a gladiator is caught using magic, if they try to kill their teammates, or if they attack any of the spectators, they will be executed on the spot. The undesirable rule only applies for the rules of the actual event. Moving on, the traditional rules of the arena state that the arena events must be divided into exactly 3 rounds. The first round, as I'm sure you've already been told, will be fought against a variety of mythical creatures that have never been used in this arena before. We do have a surprise for the second round, however. For this special occasion, instead of our reigning champion, I think you'll be happy to learn that the warrior who will be joining us is none other than the relentless mercenary Velgos. There's a loud murmur in the crowd when they hear the name of Velgos. For what I can tell, they seem excited about the prospect of watching him fight. In the third round, the announcer says, the gladiators that survived the first 2 rounds will need to fight in a series of duels. To decide who will be victorious in the event, some of the duels will have to be fought to the death, while others will be only fought until one of the fighters surrenders. The exact duels will be decided after the end of the round 2, and we will know exactly which of the fighters have survived. And now that we all got all the introductions out of the way, I believe it is finally time to get this event started. Is everyone ready? The crowd bursts into loud cheers for a few seconds, and the announcer now raises his voice in order to drown out all the other loud noises. Then I will keep you waiting no longer, the announcer says. Let the event of the century commence. One of the iron gates from the lower level of the amphitheater now slowly getting raised. while the crowds keep cheering as loud as they can. For the first round, the announcer says, divisions of the fighters will be entering the arena one by one, in the order of the division's number. Let us give a warm round of applause to this event's first division. Oh dear, 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 dear. Oh, sorry. There is a mixed sound of applause and shouts coming from the spectator seats as the gladiators from the first division make their way out of the gates and towards the center of the arena. I do not recognize any of the warriors in this division, but judging by the continued cheers of this crowd, I'd say that most of the spectators have seen them perform at least once before. Some of the gladiators seem a bit too confident. Former victors, perhaps? Either way, they'd better get their act together, and quick. From what Bruce said on my first day here, the events until now could not even begin to compare with what's coming. A large iron gate on the opposite side of the arena makes a loud cracking noise as it opens. From beyond the gate, a lion with black wings, red eyes, 2 horns on its head, and a scorpion's tail is making its way into the fighting arena. The manticore wastes no time, and it soars directly into the sky. 2 more manticores follow its lead, and they all start circling the skies above the arena, watching their prey intently. Seeing the beast leave the fighting arena with such ease, some of the spectators in the crowd are beginning to show signs of uneasiness. Do not worry, the announcer says, trying to calm down the crowd. These beasts have been well trained. They would not dare lay their claws on anyone other than the gladiators in the arena. Several giant scorpions are now also joining the arena, coming from beyond the same gate that the manticores entered from. They are slowly advancing towards the warriors in a straight line, without any attempt to surround them. It's a good thing that I heard the guards talking about the scorpions while I was in my cell. I've had all the time in the world to prepare against them, and I've also told everyone else all the information they need to know about them. At least as far as the giant scorpions are concerned, we shouldn't have any. Hey, wait a minute. Those aren't giant scorpions. Those aren't giant scorpions at all. Those are desert marauders. Damn those idiot guards. Could they not tell the difference? Okay, calm down. Desert marauders are pretty much the same as giant scorpions with smaller heads. They should have more or less the same behaviors. But do they also have the same weaknesses? I think they do, but I'm not completely certain. If I only had my notebook with me now. Oh, I don't know. I could probably read and learn more. Okay, should I go get it? Should I go and get it? If they're going by order of division number, then I should still have plenty of time until our turn is to enter the arena. But if I leave now, I'm going to miss the fights. If I'm going to miss the fight against these creatures, observing them in action may be crucial to my survival. Damn it, if I only had told Darren to secure my backpack, I could have sent Leela to check out the notebook for me. I guess there's no use thinking about that now. What's done is done. There are only 2 choices to be made. Either I read my notebook or I stay here and watch the fights. I'm gonna watch the fights because I think you'd learn more watching it live instead of reading it. Bam. Ooh. Forget the notebook. For all I know, they might even be of use to the marauders in our division. They might not even use the marauders in our division, and I'd just be wasting time. The marauders are now getting closer and closer to the gladiators, while the manticores are still flying in circles, waiting for the best opportunity to strike. The warriors seem to be rather well organized, and they're not letting the monsters intimidate them. On their leader's signal, 3 of the men jump to attack the left marauder, while the rest of the gladiators try to distract the others. One of the warriors remains behind, and he watches the manticores attentively. He must have been tasked to observe the battlefield so that he can warn his teammates if the situation changes. The scorpion-like creatures are at least 5 times bigger than the gladiators, and they could probably crush any single one of them with their giant claws. The warriors seem to be experienced in battle, however, and they manage to remain unharmed by anticipating the marauders' movements, and by covering for each other in their time of need. The group from the left, in particular, seems to be doing surprisingly well. They've managed to weaken the creature with a few well-timed strikes, and they're already moving in for the kill. The most agile of the 3 jumps on the creature's back, and he stabs it fiercely in the back of its head. The marauder screams in pain and tries to attack the warrior with its tail, but the gladiator jumps off, while the other 2 make a rush for it and stab the monster in both eyes with their swords at the same time. Ooh, yes sir. The crowd bursts into loud cheers and shouts as a scorpion-like creature falls to the ground. The 3 warriors raise their swords for a few seconds to signal their victory to the spectators, and then they head towards the other marauders in order to help their teammates. Fall back, we hear the desperate shout of the gladiator, who was observing the battlefield. Fall back, now. The gladiators look up, but they have no time to react. It takes only a few seconds for the manticores that have been circling the skies this whole time to dive down and sink their claws into the warriors' chests, and then soar back into the air carrying their prey. The screams of the gladiators silence the crowds completely, as the beasts fly higher and higher. Two of the gladiators drop their swords from the pain immediately after being attacked, and one of them managed to keep hold of his weapon, and now he's using it to stab his attacker in the underbelly. The manticore screams, and it drops the warrior, who falls to the ground and crushes his head against their hard soil. The other two gladiators are raised a bit higher by their attackers, and then they are also dropped to the ground and they die on impact. Wow. The remaining warriors are now finally starting to panic. Their leader was amongst those who died. Having lost the person who was giving them directions, the gladiators begin to break their formation, and the marauders take advantage of this by grabbing one of the warriors with their claws, while another marauder impales him with his tail. If all of this wasn't enough, two more manticores are just now entering the fighting arena from beyond the gate, and they're running fast towards the surviving gladiators. The observer gets killed first. He didn't seem to be very skilled in combat, and he got mauled in an instant. The other gladiators did not last much longer. The desert marauders and the manticores finally joined forces against them, and they couldn't stand a chance. At the end of the fight, the arena falls completely silent, except for the sounds of the manticores feasting greedily from the carcasses of their hard-earned prey. By the gods, Bruce says as he watches the battle's aftermath in horror, and from beyond the iron grating. It appears that not even our reigning champions could defeat those fearsome beasts, the announcer says. This does not look good for the following divisions. Is this event going to end in a bloodbath? The iron gate for the second division is now getting raised. However, nobody seems to be coming out. After about 10 seconds of silence, we hear a scream coming from the other direction. I'm not going out there, a man screams at the top of his lungs. If you want to kill me, then kill me now. You saw what happened to those gladiators. We don't stand a chance. You're going to march out there and in there and fight, another man's voice says, or you'll be getting a death far worse than being eaten alive by a manticore. No, please, have mercy, the other man shouts. Interesting. The discussion between what I presume is a gladiator from the second division and a guard of the arena is getting a lot of reactions from the spectators. Some of them seem to be getting scared, and the others are fidgeting around nervously in their seats. We seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties, the announcer says. There's no need to be alarmed. I'm certain that our guards will get the show up and running again. And the announcer stops mid-sentence as a single dwarf steps out from the second division's gate, carrying a bottle in his hand and walking at a relaxed pace. Towards the desert marauders, both the crowd and the announcer fall completely silent as they watch Hadrik walk calmly, and then he stops in the middle of the arena in order to chug down the last contents of his bottle. Ah, Hadrik exclaims, there's nothing like a fine bottle of dwarven ale to raise your appetite before a battle. He then starts turning his head around as if he were looking for something. Say, you wouldn't happen to have something that I could throw this empty bottle away in, would you? He shouts toward the announcer as he shows him an empty bottle in his hand. The announcer watches him with a puzzled expression on his face without saying anything. You know, like a trash can or a paper bag or something, so I don't make a mess, Hadrik says. The announcer and the crowd watch the dwarf silently, unable to decide whether he's being serious or not. While Hadrik was talking, one of the scorpion-like creatures was slowly creeping up on him and aiming to attack him with its claws. You know what? Never mind, Hadrik says. I'll just use this as an improvised weapon instead. He then immediately turns around and he clobbers the desert marauder in the head with his bottle, which breaks into shards of glass that stab the creature in its eyes. The monster starts screaming in pain as Hadrik makes a quick jump, landing with his fist on top of the marauder and smashing it against the ground, causing a loud shockwave while also forming a small crater below the creature due to the force of the impact. One of the manticores that was still up in the sky quickly dives down to grab Hadrik in its claws, but the dwarf steps away at the exact moment when the monster reaches him, and then he grabs it by the tail. He then spins around for about 4 seconds, building momentum, and then throws it at the wall as far away from him with all his might, causing the beast to smash right through with a loud booming noise. The crowd and the announcer are both speechless. They are looking at the dwarf with a bemused expression on their faces, not knowing how to react. Ah, gotta love him. Oh, you don't need to worry about that wall, Hadrik says, thinking his reckless behavior is the reason for everybody's silence. I checked that area out before the battle, and there's nothing but an empty storage on that side, so there's no danger of anyone getting hurt. A loud roar of cheering noises drowns out the rest of Hadrik's words, as the spectators finally regain their previous vigor and start shouting and clapping like never before. See, now that's more like it, Hadrik shouts, with a wide grin, and he sees the people cheering. This is what an arena full is all about. You better hang on to your seats, because the fun is just getting started. He then runs towards another marauder, and he headbutts it so fiercely that it drops to the ground in an instant. Release the second wave, the announcer shouts, as a few more desert marauders come out of the large iron gates that have been opened previously. Making their way from behind the marauders, a new species of creature is now entering the fighting arena. The creatures look like larger versions of the porcupines, but from what I understand, they should not be related to them in any way besides their looks. Unlike regular porcupines, the quills on their backs are deadly weapons, and they are sharp and durable enough to give elven steel a run for its money. The creatures have the ability to launch their quills as projectiles, with very high accuracy and speed. Due to their high regeneration rate, they also have the ability to regrow their quills almost instantly. This provides them with a near unlimited stock of ammunition to use against their foes. Their appearance and their behavior have led people to call these creatures archer porcupines. Huh. A few of the porcupines have positioned themselves several dozen feet behind Hadrik and are now turning their backs towards him, getting ready to attack. Hadrik is still fighting the marauders, and he doesn't seem to have noticed the porcupines. Should I shout a warning to him? I wouldn't want to distract him in the middle of his battle, but if those porcupines manage to arm their shots right, he might be in trouble. He's fine. I shouldn't interrupt his fight. He knows what he's doing. While Hadrik sends his last of the marauders crashing to the ground, 3 of the archer porcupines aim their shots towards him, and 6 of their sharp quills stick themselves into the dwarf's back. Huh? Hadrik says, with the tone of a man who's just been bitten by a mosquito. He then takes out all the quills out one by one with his hands, and he throws them on the ground. The quills seem to have been barely gotten through his skin, and there is hardly any blood on them coming out of the wounds. I don't know why I'm surprised. If regular unenchanted elven steel is not sharp enough to pass through the giant's skin, then why would it be any different for the porcupine's quills? Hadrik does not give the archer porcupines the chance to aim their second shot, as he dashes towards them, and then pummels them repeatedly with his fists until they are either dead or unable to move. The manticores have all abandoned their meals when Hadrik started his rampage, and they are now back to circling the skies, trying to figure out the right time to strike. One of the braver manticores dives down quickly in an attempt to surprise the dwarf, but when it sees him react, the monster quickly soars back up in the sky, out of his reach. Damn it, Hadrik says. Come back here, you coward. Come back here and fight. Hey, dwarf, I hear Araka's voice coming from the crowd. Why don't you try singing them a lullaby? Maybe they'll get sleepy and come back down. Following the sound of Araka's voice, I managed to identify Flower in the crowd of spectators. The people all around her all have their heads turned towards her, and are watching her curiously. They must think that the amulet around her neck is some new type of transceiver. Shut up, you blasted old hag, Hadrik shouts back at her. When I get out of here, I swear I'm going to double your spinning lessons. Yeah, I've got a better idea, Araka says. How about you stop wasting everyone's time and get back to fighting? Do you have any idea how much this ticket costs? I can't fight them, you moron, Hadrik shouts, exasperated. I'm not allowed to use a ranged weapon in the arena. Then throw some spears, Araka shouts. Do I really have to tell you everything? You've got spears mounted on the walls. Use them. Now that Araka mentions it, I see that there are indeed spears and various other weapons mounted on the walls of the arena. They must have been placed there to give people who didn't have any weapons when they got captured an equal chance of fighting in the event. Hadrik mumbles something under his breath, and he goes to get one of the spears. He then tosses it at one of the manticores, and the spear lodges itself into his chest, causing blood to spray out while the creature falls to the ground. Before the creature reaches the soil, the dwarf grabs 2 more spears, and he throws them in quick succession toward the 2 of the manticores, killing them as well. Wow, he's rugged. The last remaining manticore decides that the skies are no longer safe, so it quickly dives towards Hadrik, to end the fight with one big final clash. Hadrik does not wait for the creature to reach him. He makes a jump, grabbing it from the air and doing a spinning drop, crushing the beast's head into the ground. He did it! The crazy bastard did it! He took both waves of monsters down all by himself, and he barely got us scratched. The crowd are now cheering louder than before. Hadrik's teammates, who had been hiding this whole time, come running towards the dwarf, and they raise him in the air, while chanting his name repeatedly. Hadrik! Hadrik! They keep saying, while the crowds are all cheering. Don't think you're getting off that easy, you cowardly dogs, Hadrik says with a grin, while his teammates are throwing him up and down. When we get out of here, you're going to buy me a year's worth of drinks. What is the meaning of this? I hear the ambassador of Olendar shout from above. Ambassador, says Venard, the owner of the arena. I see that you decided to join us after all. Would you like some wine? The two of them seem to be talking from a private room above the division's arena. It doesn't appear like any of my teammates are able to hear them. Why is the dwarf here? The ambassador says. He wasn't supposed to be here. He's going to ruin everything. Calm down, ambassador, Venard says. The dwarf came here with a letter of admission signed by the king himself. We couldn't just turn him down. Just because you couldn't turn him down, the ambassador says, it doesn't mean that you have to let him make a mockery of your entire arena. But he hasn't done that at all, the ambassador, the owner says. Quite the contrary. In fact, he has provided us with a spectacle that this arena has not seen for ages, and the crowd loves it. The show has only just started, and it has already exceeded all of my expectations. I don't care about your expectations, the ambassador shouts. I want him out, do you understand? I do not want him to set foot in that arena ever again. Venard says. Truth be told, I also think that allowing the dwarf to wreak havoc any longer than he already has would make the show too predictable and boring. Very well, ambassador. I will speak to the staff in charge of arranging the fights and make some modifications in the schedule. You will not be seeing him again. After they finish their discussion, the room above falls silent again, meaning that on the outside, the crowds have still not stopped cheering since the end of the previous fight. It takes about another minute for the cheering to finally die down and for Hadrik and the others to step off the stage, so the next division can enter the arena. The gate to the third division is now opening. The first one to come out of it is none other than Darren. His teammates also following him after a short period of time, but they are looking a bit apprehensive. For your information, the announcer says, the man with the scar who just entered the arena is known as Darren, the healer in armor. He is a well-known hero from outside of Varathia, who has traveled the world and saved countless lives throughout the years. You may have heard of him from various newspapers in the past. Today he will be participating in the arena event as our special guest. Let us have a warm round of applause for our hero, Darren. All of the spectators begin clapping as Darren and his teammates get closer to the center of the arena, ready their weapons. Okay, listen up, Bruce tells us. While the gladiators are still waiting to begin their fight after watching the two fights from before, I think that we need to change our battlefield strategy. Have you gone daft? The disinherited noble thug says. Why would we change our tactics a few minutes before the battle? Because the way we are now, we're going to lose, Bruce says. We don't have any teamwork. We should try being more like the gladiators in the first division. You saw how well they work together. The gladiators from the first division are all dead, the mage says. Damn it, don't you know what I mean? Bruce says. I'm talking about assigning roles to everyone. You all saw how they operated. One guy was the leader, another was staying behind, and to warn them of danger, and some of them were decoys, and others were the main fighters. If we did that too, we'd be a lot more organized. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, probably. I think Darren did that when we first started. Blam. Alright, let's see. Alright, I'm going to end that video there. We've been going for almost 40 minutes. By the time you trim a little bit off, it's going to be well over a half hour. I think this is a pretty long chapter as well because I haven't even fought yet. We only went through one technically. So this is probably one of the better chapters we've read, besides when I went and got hooked up with that other one. I can't even remember her name. It's been too long. But I think it's going to be a really good fight, and we'll see all the shenanigans that's going to ensue after this. So thanks all for watching, and I will see you in, hopefully, I think it should be the last part. It might be drawn too close in the last one. All right, bye.